Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. So tell you what, listen, it's now July. I think it's just about time to turn our attention to college football. Obviously, Big 12 Media Days is underway. SEC Media Days is next week, and we're going to be full speed ahead with college football here on this channel, on this show, because frankly, one, it's that time of year. Two, there just isn't very much to talk about for the world of college basketball. Obviously, we've been through the season, we've been through the portal, we've been through the draft. So yeah, some practices are still going on. Yeah, you're going to get bits and pieces of information here or there. I will say there will be some recruiting stuff probably out of Peach Jam next week that is worth discussing. But for the most part, we're going to get a lot of college football talk going forward. With that said, when I see something interesting or hear something interesting college basketball related, I do think we're going to go ahead and discuss it. And I did see a very interesting story out of North Carolina over really about the last week to 10 days or so, okay? And so if you're listening to this show, if you're watching the channel, whatever, I got a little bit of an up and down relationship with old Hubert Davis and the Carolina Tar Heels. I think I've been critical. I've tried to be fair. It's been an up and down 4 years for Hubert Davis. Yes, you made a Final Four, but it was kind of a weird first year, at least for the first 2 or 3 months. Year 2, you missed the tournament. Year 3, you're actually legitimately awesome and deserve credit for it. But then year 4, right on the fringes of the tournament, easily could have missed. And my whole thing has basically been like, dude, you're Carolina. You should never be on the bubble going into March, especially 24 months removed from missing the tournament back in 2023. So that's where I've been with Carolina. Now, I will say in the offseason, again, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster because I was critical early, but I will give Carolina fans credit because they said to me point blank, Torres, chill out, wait until the entire roster comes together before you criticize us too much. And now that it is all together, I will say I actually do like a lot of the pieces. We talked about Luka Bogovic when he committed back in whatever it was, late May, early June. I like a lot of the portal pieces as well. I've always been a Jaron Stevenson guy. Henry Visar is awesome. We've talked about him time and time again, how he was really one of the better players on Arizona late in the season when he got, just more acclimated to a bigger role than he had to start the season. Kyan Evans, great shooter. We'll see if he emerges as a point guard. And so I just bring it. Jonathan Powell, by the way, has been getting rave reviews this offseason. So once the pieces came together, I really did start to like them. Well, I bring it up because as much as I like this roster, the one thing I will readily admit, I think I might have been a little low on 5-star Caleb Wilson. Okay, we've talked a lot about Caleb Wilson, but I'll say this. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, obviously practices have started, summer workouts have started, and camp season at Carolina has started, where the players are on campus, they're scrimmaging, they're practicing, they're doing camp stuff. And then, oh, by the way, a lot of alums return to town and they play these kind of famous pickup games late at night between the alums, between the current players, all of that. And I just bring it up because if you listen to people who cover this team, if you listen to people who are around this team, they will tell you that Caleb Wilson is a star and that Caleb Wilson may be the star that North Carolina needs to reach its full potential and maybe even surpass what all of us have as expectations here in June, July, and August heading into the season. So let's go ahead and get you caught up on what we have heard about Caleb Wilson and why, as somebody, I love Caleb Wilson, but as good as I thought he was, maybe I have underrated him and maybe he is the missing piece. Maybe he is the key piece to Carolina being way better than we thought. First of all, as far as Caleb Wilson is concerned, I've enjoyed, and we've talked about this time and time again, I've enjoyed watching his career trajectory, okay? This was a kid, top 3-4 player in the class early in his high school career. I think he had kind of an up and down junior year. And I really remember it was around this time last year that you started to say, okay, this kid is slowly refiguring it out and putting it all together. We talked about it at the time, but he played on the same AAU team as the Boozer twins over the course of last summer. And it was just interesting because we saw him play a lot of different roles, right? Some nights he was the best player, 20 and 10. Some nights he was a rebounder. Some nights he was a defensive player. Sometimes he was this, sometimes he was that. But I thought that really carried over into this season, where I thought he had a great season on the high school circuit. And where, to be blunt, I think he reestablished himself as one of the better players in this class. And what I like about Caleb Wilson is the stuff that we have talked about. 6'10", diverse offensive skill set, can get down in the post, but can also hit threes. Good rebounder, good defender, good help defender, super athletic. As I said, there is a reason that he is ranked. He's been ranked in the top 10 of this class as long as they have been ranking the class of 2025, and why a lot of people, including me, have him as projected as a top 10 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. Okay, so what happened over the last couple weeks that has me so excited and everybody around Carolina so excited? It's the stuff that has started to leak out about him in these summer workouts with pros. You have guys that are either playing in the NBA or overseas, the Cam Johnsons, the Luke Mays. You go on and on down the list of dudes that have worn that Carolina blue. They were back on campus. They were working out, and it was like, oh, this guy is an absolute dog. Okay, first of all, I think all you need to do is look at what Hubert Davis said in his most recent media availability. Quote, this is from Hubert Davis: "He's an unbelievable talent. His length, athleticism, and versatility allow him to dominate on both ends of the floor. He loves being a great teammate, is competitive, and comes from an unbelievable family. Carolina fans will love him and the entire freshman class." So that was from Hubert Davis. But then this was the other thing that caught my attention. Okay, so the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, I think they do a great job covering the Heels. One of their contributors, Bill Robinson, was at some of these workouts, and this is what he said about the experience of seeing Caleb Wilson in person. Quote, "We, as in Carolina, haven't had anybody like him in 10 years. 10 years. We haven't had anybody like him in a decade." That speaks to, one, maybe some recruiting misses for Carolina, although to their point, they've won a national championship over the last 10 years. So who am I to criticize? But then two, and I think as importantly, I think it speaks to that this kid is a really special talent. Now, what's interesting is some of these pickup games, a little bit has been able, you can find clips and pieces and this and that online and on YouTube and on this and that. And the one thing I would say really two things stand out to me about Caleb Wilson and seeing how his game has evolved and kind of continued to grow over the course of, I think, again, the last year, the last 6 months, whatever you want to call it. One, I'll say this, and I think it was referenced in Hubert Davis's statement. I think he's a little bit of a better playmaker at 6'10" than I kind of realized he was just in seeing some of these highlights. I mean, and Hubert Davis said it. His length and his athleticism, versatility allow him to dominate both ends of the floor. He loves being a great teammate, okay? If you watch some of these highlights, some of these clips, some of these videos, I think that's the one thing that stands out. This dude is 6'10", and I'm not saying he's Magic Johnson. I'm not even saying he's Penny Hardaway or whatever. But a guy that can make plays out of the high post, that can beat people off the dribble, that can get to the rim, that can get others involved, that is a good passer. He can kind of do it all in that 6'10" frame. And then on top of that, the other thing that stands out, just a really, really competitive defender. And we've talked about this time and time again with a lot of these really good high school players, is some of the great high school talents, sometimes they either don't want to play defense at all, or they're only committed on the defensive end when things are going well offensively, right? And I think sometimes when a guy is willing on the defensive end, we have to acknowledge it. I've said it many times about AJ DeBonta. That's one thing that stands out. He competes on both ends of the floor, and if the shot isn't falling, and transparently, it didn't really fall in the Team USA stuff the last couple weeks, he still competed on the defensive end. He found ways to contribute offensively, and I kind of feel like that's the same with Caleb Wilson. 6'10", I think he's tall enough to guard bigs. He's athletic enough to guard threes, maybe even twos. So you talk about a guy that could potentially guard 2 through 5. That ain't a bad thing to be able to do at 18, 19 years old. And so when I look at Carolina, if he's as good as advertised, like let's just say he's not quite Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonta, Darren Peterson, but he's in that tier right below where he's still like a fringe all ACC first team guy, that completely changes the trajectory of this Carolina team. Because, like I said, I do like the pieces that they've put together. One, and this is not an original thought from me, so I'm not trying to take credit as such. They are just so much bigger than they were a year ago, right? That was the big issue with Carolina. They were small across the board. Positional size was not there. And so you look at this roster, if nothing else, they're just way bigger. Henry Visar, legit 7-footer at center. Caleb Wilson, 6'10", on the wings. Jonathan Powell, 6'6". Luka Bogovic, 6'6". You go on and on down the list. Kyan Evans, 6'4" or so. Yes, Seth Trimble's a little bit small, but they're not like they were last year. They have much better positional size. And two, I think there's no doubt they're more skilled. Henry Visar is as skilled of a 7-footer as you will see in college basketball. Jonathan Powell, as I said, has exceeded expectations. I think they need to figure out some things in the backcourt. What is Kyan Evans? How good is he? How is he going to adjust? By the way, Jaren Stevenson. I haven't even mentioned Jaren Stevenson. I've told you all summer long, I love Jaren Stevenson. 6'10", makes shots, playmaker, a little bit like Caleb Wilson. I don't think he's quite there. He's quite as gifted. But I've said it. Alabama doesn't make the Final Four in 2024 if it isn't for Jaren Stevenson. And so I just bring it up because I do like this roster. And now, if Caleb Wilson is as good as advertised, if he's like a fringe all-ACC first-team type guy, now we have to reconsider how good Carolina is and how good they can be. So I don't want to get everybody too riled up here in the middle of July. But I'll tell you this, man. I do give Hubert Davis credit. It was a back against the wall kind of offseason. We know the reported number of money, amount of money that they spent on this roster, $14 million in the last year of the uncapped recruiting era. I think in theory, we're all going back to a smaller number next year. We'll see if schools actually kind of follow through on it. But I just bring it up because this was a critical offseason. There were changes that need to be made, and they were made, and now we'll see what happens. But Caleb Wilson appears to be not just as good as advertised, maybe better. We haven't had a guy like him in 10 years, according to people in the building. Fire me up. Can't wait. How soon till college hoops, people? Because I love college football. We're going to talk so much college football. But what do we got? BYU, UNC in an exhibition in late October. Sign me the F up. I am ready. We'll be back with more all sorts of college sports talk over the next couple of days. If you did enjoy this video, by the way, make sure you're subscribed. Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips and videos going up every single day. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod. We really do appreciate your support.